Well, good afternoon, everybody. I think we'll make a start on my little session, my talk this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining me. For the next half an hour or so, I'm going to talk about what's coming next. Who knows, really? But let's go through some of the themes that I think are important for us to consider in our industry, and some of the things that I think, with the advance of technology and the ways in which people are deciding to work these days, are absolutely essential for us to get a handle on how they impact the world of work. Thank you very much. I should also just say thank you very much to Richard and the team at Global Business Intelligence. Fantastic day, amazing surroundings. Hope you're really enjoying it, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. So, a little bit about me. We said a little bit this morning about me, so I won't dwell on this very much. But I head up the FM consultancy at Capita Real Estate, as we said this morning. Some of the things there that we get involved in. Obviously, I've been speaking to some of you today as well. I'm also, what I think I might just quickly touch on, is I'm also a Chartered Facilities Management Surveyor, which I think is a very, very important aspect to consider as we go through today's talk. Oh, I thought it was in there.
That one doesn't, that's only just for the video camera.
Ah, got it. Okay, into the mic. Thank you very much. Thank you. So these, just very, very quickly, I won't bore you too much of these, but these are some of the boxes, some of the coloured boxes that we offer at Capita, the sort of things that you might expect us to offer: strategic reviews, contract monitoring, design review, etc. Some of the things that consultancies that in other practices obviously also offer. So why do we think we're a little bit different? I think it's the bottom line there. I think we're really, really good at listening. We help to listen, create, deliver. We tell the story across the landscape of property. And of course that interacts with all the other services that Capita can bring as well. And we're working with these guys as well, and I won't bore you with that, but lots of people, public and private sector, so we've got a huge amount of depth and expertise. And I don't have one of these, so I don't think we're going to see any predictions for the future. I'm not saying that we should be thinking about, gosh, I'm going to come away from today and I know exactly what's going to happen. But I do think it's important to think one of my first main themes about cost and value. So, I think it's important, really, really important for us in facilities management to think about this, particularly as we enter a digital age. And we're transitioning from this. I've read somewhere recently about the age of knowledge transitioning to the age of intelligence. Not really sure what that means, but I think we do need to think much more about cost, much more about value in cost. And can FM really steal a march here on its property peers and lead from the front? It's what we need to do. We say we're really good at it. How do we actually get there? How do we actually prove influential in shaping the future of real estate? I think FM is well placed to do so. There are many examples in recent years of industry commentators, institutional legislative bodies telling us that FM should be leading initiatives and giving clear direction to how we occupy workspace. And BIM is a very good example of this. But my concern is that where are the really clear examples in the past of where FM has been resoundingly successful in this? And I'm not wanting to sound overly controversial, but if we want to be the successful body of professionals we all know we can be, I think we need to take a good hard look at where we are, where others perceive us to be, and where we want to get to. And it's by no means to downplay the fantastic progress that there has been made. And there are many of the industry's leading lights to think of this, and I won't mention them here, through hard work, dedication to FM over decades. But we are in a commercial and at times ruthless working environment. We all know this. It's been forced to change much quicker than it would like or traditionally is used to. And I think perhaps more than that, I'll touch on it just a little bit, I think we're actually at a turning point in our industry. And to a certain extent, we're entering uncharted waters. We've never had such information so readily available and so easily accessible. And I know we've talked a little bit about that today as well. But are we ready to take advantage of that? What about the other professions in our sector? Are they going to be better placed to influence and lead in a changing working landscape? And what are we going to do about it? So I think the key priorities for workspace decision makers, they are changing. But I think to ensure competitiveness and growth, facilities teams should recognise that the opportunity to lead such change has never been so great. And the success in doing so, you have to have a deep understanding of the objectives of the workspace where staff will work and collaborate. Going back a little bit to the theme I mentioned this morning, and I think Susan mentioned as well, it's not about doing the cleaning and doing the maintenance anymore. That's a given. You have to do that. So come on to a little bit more about this theme here. Cost will always be an important factor for facilities management and facilities decision makers. Of course it is. But I think many astute organisations have begun to focus much more on value and service and other longer term benefits in recent years. And that's now evolving further to push well-being and productivity of employees into focus. Big themes in our industry, lots of commentary over that in the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that FM is actually really well placed to champion these themes. So I've worked with a number of institutions over the last few years to help them establish the baseline costs. And I think that's an important aspect because we don't always know what we're spending. We don't always know what's included within FM, and I mentioned that again this morning. What does facilities management mean? What are the costs that are actually included within it? And I think that's a really, really important process that we have to try and make sure that is an essential thing that we get done and we get on top of. It's important, valuable work. It's not really just about cost. Sorry. But hopefully not just to produce a relative comparison of costs between different cost centres. Any such review should be in the context of improvement. And in doing so, we should be focused on enhancing the working environment. Price is what you pay, and value is what you get. I think Warren Buffett said that. There's been a lot of analysis and discussion recently in our industry on productivity, as I say, and organisational performance, and it will be the focus of other events and conferences this year, so I'm not going to spend too long on this. But I do believe it's a very, very important theme for FM to get behind. It seems an obvious conclusion that if we have a healthier workforce, as again we mentioned a bit this morning, with higher levels of morale and well-being, a clearer understanding of how they contribute to the overall success of the business, the organisation they belong to, an improved sense of self-worth, then that organisation will benefit accordingly, whatever goals it set itself. But FM is so important to this development. It cannot do it alone, though, and must recognise the need to work with and influence business leaders and management teams to be successful here. HR, IT. Senior level buy-in obviously is key, we all know this, but how we work, when we work, and where we work are all likely to change over the coming years. So where are we working? FM and workspace design. Slides are really just to tell a story in a sense, but to successfully influence the productivity and efficiency of workers, I think FM needs to be an integral part of the decision making that takes place when workspace is designed. That hasn't always been the case, as we know. It's certainly not been a traditional or a standard approach traditionally in our industry. The needs or requirements of the end user have not taken priority. Now, I know there are good examples out there where it has, but as a standard approach, it's not happened. FM must have more influence on the design and specification standards that our architects and engineers adhere to, as they're responsible for management of the end product. And that's not to say that architects and design teams do not consider the end user. Of course they do. But I believe their focus is not on exactly the same things as those of us who are responsible for managing the workspace. The overall user experience, as they like to term it in my experience, is quite rightly a very important focus when designing a new place of work. But the practicalities of being responsible on a day-to-day basis for that workspace must be a key focus also. How many times have I been in a design team meeting where we've mentioned something that's going to come up, we think it's going to come up during the operational phase, and the design team lead will say, it's okay, that's for the FM operations team to worry about. So who are we building inspiring, beautiful spaces for? Who is the most important customer? The client who instructs the build or retrofit, or the end user, who, depending on what type of structure it is, helps to maintain that client's profit levels or relies so heavily on that space working for them, in the case of a school or a hospital, for example. So I think FM has a huge, huge part to play in bridging standards in building design. It's one of my main themes today, so I'm going to spend a bit of time on this. I think it needs to play a pivotal role in linking building design, operational management, productivity, well-being, some of the things I've already mentioned. It has to be at the centre of the future integration, which I think will definitely happen. Who's it going to be led by? By building information modelling, building management systems, computer-aided facilities management systems, whatever we want to call them. Leading future property management strategy and operational delivery. FM can only show value in doing so by aligning itself with the strategic objectives of the organisation it serves. We've heard it many times, but how many of us have actually managed to do that?